From Amma Wakaf, member of the Syrian Social Club in London, a group which supports the Assad government's reforms. Amma Wakaf, hi there, thanks for being on the programme. Do you see any significance in the fact that the blame isn't solely being placed on the Syrian regime, but also on the actions of the rebels now too?
Well, we're clearly making a sort of progress, aren't we? Last time around I checked, there was no mention at all neither of the armed groups nor of their atrocities, and this happened when the UN General Assembly was voting on Syria, and they got a vote with a majority of 137 countries. So had some of those atrocities been mentioned, probably that wouldn't have been the result, let alone having that sort of a majority. But we're getting there. 14 months down the line, they're acknowledging that there are armed groups, that those armed groups are committing atrocities. So I think that is a positive.
But the worrying sign as well in this report saying Syria's conflict is getting increasingly militarised. UN monitors have tried to bring about a ceasefire, as it's been widely reported, but without success, as has also been reported. What other options are open for the international community than to stop the violence there?
Well, I think the international community first need to get their act right in terms of what objectives are they really pursuing with regards to the Syrian issue. For example, there is a bit of suspicion with regards to the real objectives of such organisations, you know, the Human Rights Commission or the Amnesty International, who today accuse the UN of being not fit for purpose, for failing to have a decisive action with regards to Syria. Now, the UN has taken a decisive actions with regard to Libya. Was that for the benefit of the Libyan people? Now tens of thousands of dead Libyans would tell you no. Was that for the good of Libya itself? Perhaps Libya will not exist anymore. So the objective was clearly only to topple the regime. Now, is the objective of toppling the regime in Syria, would that be good for the Syrian people? Probably, or most probably it would not. Also, there is another issue here, which is that a second issue is that these organizations seem to be a little bit manipulated by the opposition. So, for example, the report today that was mentioned today published today by the Human Rights Commission talks about, for example, a student who is thrown from the fourth flat in Aleppo University, and there is a sort of accusation of the Syrian forces of committing such a crime. But this person, called Yazan Aboud, was actually a government supporter, and his name was had been on a death list for a while because of accused of being a Shabih. So these organizations really need, I mean, it's a welcome step that they have acknowledged that there are these are organized groups, armed groups, but they need to take it a little bit further and really scrutinize more of the information they're getting.
All right, now what about the danger of fighting spilling further? We've already seen trouble in neighbouring Lebanon. Is there a danger that it could spread further too?
I think that's a very good question, and I think that's a very key question. The reason being is that everybody views this as a problem in Syria between some sort of a dictatorship and peaceful demonstrators. It is only when you start to look at this matter as a regional issue between the spread of Islamic extremism and the resistance of people who do not want to be identified either a Sunni or a Shiite and so on and so forth, and who have progressive ideas, then you start to realize that really there are no borders here between Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and even Turkey and Iraq as well. It's really the same drive, and Lebanon has been pretty much on the supporting side, or the north of Lebanon to be more specific, on the supporting side of the Syrian opposition with regards to providing them with all the weaponry they need, funding, so on and so forth. And Lebanon, the people in Lebanon are fighting the same problem as well. So spilling into Lebanon, it's very likely that if the situation does not calm in Syria, as actually President Assad had predicted very long time ago, that it's going to go across border, because it's basically the same people having the same problems, facing the same problems.
Amma, thanks for your thoughts there. Amma Wakaf from the Syrian Social Club in London. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.